In this video we're going to show you how to digitise the stained glass patchwork square using Embird. Now you can use these squares for a lot of different things. You could use them to make cushion covers, a quilt. We've got the 1/4 inch seam and we'll show you how to do all that. And here's a few of the things that we've made using the square. So there's some pin cushions. We've just cut a piece of material for the back and stuffed it with fibre fill. And then we have some bags here. Now we've just used 8 of these squares and put them together with some material in the middle, and we used a 9th one as the pocket. You can just see it in there. And in this bag here we've used 9 of the squares across to make a tote bag. Just done it in black on the back, but it looks really effective. So yes, so this is a really handy square, and Paula's going to show you how to digitise this and to stitch it out, and you'll be amazed at how many things you'll be able to make with it.
So the first thing we're going to do is show you how this stitches out. So this will be the first video, and in the second video I'll actually show you how to digitise it using Embird. So you can see I've got the pattern showing up here, so it's ready to go. I'm using a black thread as the top thread and also a black bobbin thread, so just make sure they're matching. You can choose whatever colours you like, but just make sure the top and the bottom threads match. I'm using a cutaway stabiliser here, but you can use whatever you like depending on what application, what you want to use these patches for. I have some scraps here, just any sort of scrap material, and also a pair of applique scissors that you can use to cut around the material as we go. Okay, so let's begin. What this is doing now is stitching out the outline. Just cut that thread. We need this outline on the interfacing so that it shows us where we will be placing the material, so you'll see that next. Okay, so this should finish at this point and allow me to remove the hoop, because what we want to do next is start adding our material pieces. So we take that from there and we grab a piece of material. So I'm going to go with this one here, and we place it on there. Now you can cut these to a specific size if you want. I don't usually worry too much. I just place it on the top. You can also use an adhesive spray if you're worried about this moving around. I find that it holds fairly well. So I'm going to just place it there, pop the hoop back on, make sure it's smooth, and then see what it's done here. If you come over here, see it's telling me that that's the piece I need to put on first. So that's why I've got it right in the middle there. Okay, so let's stitch. And always make sure I sit here watching it, just to make sure that the material is smooth as it does this. And at this point it should stop again to allow me to remove the hoop. because what I need to do now is cut around this shape here. So I need to do this for each of the shapes. So let's remove that and pop it down here. Now you need a nice pair of applique scissors would be helpful to do this because it allows you to get nice and close here. And you want to get as close as possible. And if you happen to cut the threads, don't worry too much because we will be stitching over this again. So really this thread here, this stitch out here, is just to hold these pieces down. See how this is still needs a bit of cutting? You really need to get in and cut really nice and close. Okay, so that's the first one done. So if you come back up to here, you'll see that's telling me now that this corner one needs to be done next. So I'll grab another bit of material. And it's only a tiny little bit. I'll place this one over. Now when you're doing these edge bits, make sure you leave enough seam allowance here around the edges. So you don't want to put it too close to the edge here, just give yourself a good buffer so that you've got a nice seam allowance. Depending on how you're going to be using these squares, you want to have enough seam to be able to sew them. So put it back on the hoop. Okay, make sure it's nice and smooth. Remove it again. So this is what you need to do for each of these little shapes. Bring that down. And again, I'm cutting around the edges. Now, make sure you don't cut your seam allowance here. So I'll show you what I mean by that. Come in here. I'll cut around here. And I usually cut on a curve there so that they overlap. So when I add the next one, it'll overlap this one. I just like that little buffer. Same here. Okay, so that's that done. Now the next one up here, we come back here again. You'll see we've got the next shape to add. So let's go with this one this time. Pop that on there. And we do the same thing again. So we just continue doing that for all of these shapes. When I come to here, I do usually go around like that. So I've got, again, so I've got a little bit of a curve there. I always like them to overlap. Like that. So I just rather have an overlap than a gap. Sometimes if you cut wrong, you'll get sort of that sort of look, and you don't want that. I'd rather they just overlap. You can always cut them away later. Okay, we'll just do one more. Just to show you exactly. Okay, let's try. Get a bit of this yellow in here. Just take your time and just make sure it's smoothed out nicely. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll finish up the rest of these off camera, so you don't have to sit here watching every single one. But that's the basic idea, you just continue doing that for the rest of them. So we'll come back after we've done that part of it and show you the remaining piece. So as you can see, we finished putting the material down, so now we're ready for the next step, which is to do the satin stitch all around the edges there. So that's essentially the last step actually. So let's go. So there you go, we're done. Doesn't that look great? Just take that out of the hoop. There you go there. So this is the first part. You've seen how it stitches out now. So what we'll do now is there'll be a link below this video for part 2. So just click on that one and you'll be able to see exactly how we digitize this using Embird.